It is Tuesday, December 3rd. Good morning and welcome to THG Network. My name is Mervin Henley. Our specials are usually titled Conversations with Mervin Henley. But today, this is not a conversation with Mervin Henley. However, it was a conversation with Jamiella McPhail hailing from Freedom FM on St. Kitts. Jamie recently conducted a sit-down interview with the Federation's First Lady, Diani Prince-Drew, wife of Prime Minister Dr. Terrance Drew. Earlier this year, the lovely couple tied the knot, and now they have chosen to give the people of St. Kitts and Nevis an opportunity to learn more about the First Lady. I welcome this gesture wholeheartedly. If my memory serves me correctly, only one other spouse of a political leader in St. Kitts and or Nevis has ever sat for an interview with the press. That was a spouse of the late Sir Simeon Daniel, former Premier of Nevis. This isn't a criticism of past leaders or their spouses, but simply an observation. It's rare for a first lady or first gentleman to take the step, and I applaud Mrs. Prince-Drew for extending this respect and courtesy to the people of her adopted homeland. The interview first aired yesterday was a remarkable introduction. I'm impressed with the First Lady, her poise, her professional accomplishments, and her vision for contributing to the nation. With her background in law and expertise in international relations and foreign affairs, she brings valuable skills to support her husband when needed. Her ability to offer insights on critical matters alongside inputs from legal experts like the Attorney General is undoubtedly an asset to the nation's leadership. Now, during this interview, ladies and gentlemen, you'll hear her speak passionately about her foundation, the Joy Project, a program dedicated to making a meaningful difference in the lives of children in St. Kitts and Nevis. I believe she's uniquely positioned to create a positive and lasting impact, and she has my full support in this noble endeavor. Ladies and gentlemen, I know it can be challenging at times, but I urge us to separate politics from the personal. This interview wasn't about policy debates, double salaries for civil servants, or the cost of living, issues that are undeniably important. Instead, it was a moment for the First Lady to introduce herself to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, sharing her journey and vision. So can we pause to appreciate that? So without further ado, here is the interview between Jamiella McPhail and Mrs. Diani Prince-Drew, brought to you from St. Kitts.
Welcome to an exclusive interview with Mrs. Diani Prince-Drew. Join us as we take a journey throughout the various stages of her life. Her story is indeed fascinating, and her latest philanthropic endeavors meet with the needs of the most vulnerable among us. And we welcome Mrs. Diani Prince-Drew. Welcome, Mrs. Drew.
Thank you. I'm great.
So I think we should start out at the beginning. Now, you grew up in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
I did.
Tell us a bit about your childhood.
Well, even though I grew up in St. Vincent, I consider myself a Caribbean-raised woman. I'm very deeply connected to my roots. My childhood was a very happy one. I grew up with two very loving and supportive parents who are still supportive to this day. They're my biggest fans. And a younger brother who is just as supportive, but will never actually say it out loud. We grew up in an environment that was really, nurturing. Our parents always instilled very core values in us, and the only limitations that we had on ourselves were the ones that we placed on ourselves. There were no limitations put on us by our parents.
What were some of the early influences that helped to shape who you are as a person?
First thing would definitely be those family values. My parents were really given with their time and resources to others around them. My mother was/is a nurse. I think when you're a nurse, you never stop being a nurse. So she was a nurse for her entire professional career, and I grew up seeing how giving and nurturing she was as an individual, even outside of nursing. You know, we had a home where my mother would show up with somebody and be like, oh, this person needs to stay here this weekend. And it wasn't anything that was, you know, unreal to us or strange to us, because that's just what we knew. And the same goes to my father, always spending time with other people. So seeing our parents be like that definitely instilled in me a responsibility to others. It sparked something in me to be the person I am today. Their example is definitely my guiding light. And I'll also say that mentorship played a really important part in my upbringing. I was very lucky to have some very good influences in both my personal and professional life. And these people who probably don't even know that they were mentors to me, the people who really pushed me to pursue my passions fearlessly.
Okay, so you mentioned that some people were influential in your life, but tell us about some of the experiences that may have impacted you at an early age.
Everything goes back to my parents. All roads lead back to them. And it would definitely be just seeing how they impacted other people's lives through very small gestures, very small efforts. Like I said, my mother would sometimes just show up with people at our house and say, well, you know, this person is going through a tough time and they need to stay here for whatever reason. And, you know, that was all my life. That's all I saw from both of my parents throughout my life. And, you know, that I think really was one of the most outstanding experiences. If I had to say something that really put me on a road to want to dedicate my life to service, would be them.
Fantastic. Looking back, what advice might you give to your younger self?
Two things. One would be to be kinder to myself. I think as a teenager, especially, as it goes with most teenagers, you start comparing yourself to your peers. You may develop some low self-esteem, and you may be really harsh on yourself. And I think I did have that period, you know, in my early teen years. So definitely tell myself to just be kinder to yourself. You know, there's no one like you. Stop trying to compare yourself to everyone around you. Just step into your individuality and, you know, show yourself some compassion. And I think I would, as much as I hate to admit it, no, but I would listen to my parents' advice more. Because I think if I did that, I wouldn't have made some of the missteps that I did growing up. Of course, you know, growing up and developing into an adult, you have to make some, you have to make some mistakes along the way. It shapes who you are as a person. But I really should have listened to a lot of what they were saying. I'm sure if they see this interview now, they would be like, but those two things for sure.
So professionally, how would you identify yourself?
That's a tricky one. I'm a former diplomat. That's still fresh, so I still say it. I'm a former diplomat. I'm a lawyer, even though I haven't actively practiced law in a few years, or at least the traditional type of law. And I think more so now, though, I'm a public servant through philanthropy.
That's quite an interesting career. Tell us about some experiences that you may have had.
Well, so many, because between diplomacy and being a lawyer, there are just so many things happening that even converged into, you know, birthing where I am right now. When I started practicing law, I was in-house counsel in the National Insurance Services, which is essentially Social Security. And I realized very quickly that was not the environment for me. I wasn't very into corporate law, civil law, sitting behind a desk and, you know, drafting documents. It just wasn't my personality. And I went on to join the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. So I got involved in criminal law.
Okay.
And while there, I was primarily prosecuting in the High Court. So I was doing indictable offenses, homicides, sexual offenses, robberies, things like that. And that environment really highlighted to me how societal issues impact individuals and communities. That further fueled, my drive for and my passion and interest in social justice and social equity. After leaving the DPP's office, I joined the Foreign Service. I was recruited into the Foreign Service, and it wasn't something that I had ever really planned to do for myself. I knew I wanted to get involved in international law somehow, but joining the Foreign Service was not necessarily the route I saw myself taking to do that. Joined the Foreign Service, started at the Permanent Mission of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to the United Nations. So I was based in New York at the United Nations. I was there for a few years, and it's to me now, thinking about it and even speaking about it, it's almost still very surreal, the things that I was responsible for doing. I was the legal advisor for the mission, but I also was a special advisor on issues such as Syria, Iran, North Korea, international tribunals like the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice. Sounds very, very crazy now, but even though I was doing something that seemed so separate and apart from what I was doing when I was practicing law, when I was a prosecutor, I say everything converged because when I was in St. Vincent practicing that type of law, I was dealing with, really raw issues like, you see people being harmed, you see their rights being infringed upon, and it's really the same thing that was happening, but on a much larger scale. So whereas I may have 5 cases that I would be at one point dealing with, and they're homicides, they're, very heinous sexual offenses, at the UN, it was a situation where it would be hundreds of thousands, in some cases millions of people facing dire humanitarian crises where they were facing those same types of issues. So those two things converge, and they seem different, but they're really not. And that was essentially my professional career.
How has your background within your professional career influence what you're doing today?
It has definitely further fueled my drive for wanting to push for social justice and social equity. It's definitely helped me to further want to pursue service to others, although that's what I was doing in those two fields in different ways. I'm more laser focused now on having seen, suffering in some cases for some people at the most raw and the most deep levels, that now I want to see what little can I do where I am, in the space that I am, that I can help other people.
Okay. What role do you think that education plays in the development of people?
Well, I think education is the key to most things. I think education is the key to societal transformation generally. It certainly opens up opportunities where there seemingly are none, especially for persons who are vulnerable persons. I think that education provides persons with this ability to reach goals that they didn't even know existed for them. It's, there's a quote that I really like that I read recently. It says, and this is specifically to women now, it says that when you educate a woman, you educate a nation. Yeah. So, and that's so true, because you see the ripple effect of how a woman who is given the opportunity to be educated, how it uplifts her family, it uplifts her community, it uplifts the society that she lives in. So I think with education, when you're talking about societal transformation and societal upliftment, it's really at the core of that discussion.
So beyond the academics, what drives you? What are you most passionate about?
So many things. I'm really passionate about learning. I consider myself to be a lifelong student. I want to know everything. I want to learn everything. And I don't think that education ever ends. I think as long as you're alive, there is something to learn, and it helps with your personal development. And I think you're always growing, you're always developing as an individual. I don't think that anyone should, have gone to school, whatever level it is, whether you've gotten to the postgraduate level or not. I think that you should always just read, thirst for information, just keep your mind active. And in addition to that, it would be service. My personal mantra, I would say, is another quote. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. That is the thing that drives me. I think that if you want to give, you should give. Yes, fine. But for me, it's more of a life philosophy that I really don't know who I am as an individual if I am not trying to uplift people who are around me, because I feel like I am privileged to be able to do that. So why not? It seems so simple.
Is there a particular cause or issue that captures your heart?
A number of them. Children's welfare, for one. It's cliche to say it, but children are the future, and I think that children deserve to grow up and exist in environments where they're nurtured, they feel safe, that they can grow. And, across the world, there are so many children who simply don't have the opportunity to tap into their potential. So that, for me, is really, really important, very key. Women's empowerment, as you could probably tell, is another one. Environmental sustainability is another. Especially, we live in a Caribbean island. We're a small island developing state. We really need to pay more attention to how we protect our environment, how we protect our ecosystems, because we really are existing at the will right now of climate change. If a hurricane comes and it's a category 5, God forbid, like we're just, God be with us. But environmental sustainability, I think we need to focus on promoting renewable resources. We need to focus on recycling, as small as it may be, cultivating green spaces, just looking for a way to preserve the environment that we're in so that it could then look out for us.
Yes. With all that you do, how would you describe your approach to wellness and self-care?
It's very holistic for me, because the mental, the emotional, the physical, the spiritual are all interconnected. If one is out, then everything else is off balance. So I practice mindfulness. I try to meditate as often as I can. I pray as much as I can. I try to eat healthy. I try to exercise regularly. I am by no means the most fit person. I'm not the most active. But I try my best to stay active. I practice self-compassion, which is one of the things I wish that I knew when I was younger that I should have been doing. So I practice self-compassion. I let myself know, even now as an adult, it's okay to slow down. You can't do everything. You're going to make mistakes even as you get older. It's okay. So all of that combined really brings a lot of balance to who I am and how I operate on a daily basis.
So you spoke about your passions and your interests, especially when it comes to the advancement of people and cities. How do you package all of this in one passion project?
Well, They all happily now fit under a foundation that I started in July of this year called the Joy Project. It's a nonprofit organization that I decided that I was going to start when I moved to St. Kitts, and everything happily fits under that umbrella.
So tell us about motivation for, starting this project.
There are two main reasons. The first reason is really because I'm so passionate about community work, about service, about giving back. I feel like I have the privilege to do so. And I think when people hear the word privilege, they usually associate, well, money or something like that. But for me, privilege equates to experiences, opportunities, knowledge even. So I feel like I have the privilege to be able to put my hand to something and say, okay, let me see how this could influence other people's lives, how it could impact other people's lives. And because of that passion, I feel compelled. I feel like I have a responsibility to help where I can, even if it's helping one person. I'm okay with that. I'm happy with that. But the second thing is, for me, the Joy Project is an expression of gratitude to St. Kitts and Nevis, the country that has adopted me and that I have adopted. It's really an extension of my heart, I would say, how I feel about St. Kitts and Nevis. So every initiative under the Joy Project it honors St. Kitts and Nevis. It's about how do we give back and add to national development? What can I do to help national development? St. Kitts and Nevis has embraced me so warmly. I came here and it felt like it's home. It felt like home, and it is home. It's my home now. And it's the least that I could do to give back to this country that has now given me so much.
How do you intend to partner with local communities and various organizations to ensure that you make your work count?
Well, I think the main thing for the Joy Project is to be a collaborative partner. We recognize that there are so many community groups, NGOs, even individuals who are doing really good work across the country. And I completely respect that work. And if I could even help to add to their resources so that the impact is felt wider and more people could get value from it, then that's the goal. I mean, of course, that does not take away from the fact that we will have our own initiatives, launch our own programs and things of that nature. But the real goal is to see how we could be a complementary partner, collaborative partner with the work that is already ongoing, because there's so much great things happening, so many people that are doing so many things. We're also looking to see what gaps need to be filled and using our own resources, seeing how we could then go and fill those gaps. We may not be able to fill all, but if we could fill some of the gaps that we see that need to be filled, then at least we know that there are people who are going to benefit from that.
Are there any specific groups or individuals that you hope to empower through the foundation?
Yes, vulnerable people generally, but I do have a special focus on women and children and the elderly.
What steps are you currently taking to bring the foundation's vision to life?
A number of things. Right now, we're focusing on awareness, because if we raise awareness, then we're able to get donors to give to the foundation, because we're a completely nonprofit. So we're operating on the basis of, people saying, hey, you're doing good work, we want to help. So awareness is big right now. We're also, like I mentioned before, trying to see how we could partner with existing entities to see what we could do with those persons and see how we could, implement large initiatives. And then we're also just listening to feedback from the individuals that we've already started trying to impact. Community feedback especially is really important to us, because who knows better than the community, the people who we want to help. They're the ones that would be able to tell us, well, this may not impact us this much, even though it seems like it's a good initiative. So community feedback.
What are your long-term goals for the foundation?
Woo! I have so many. My main one would be to implement an education initiative that provides a very long-running comprehensive scholarship for students. I would like to see the foundation be able to help a child from preschool or daycare right up to university. It's a big one, but that one I think is really, that would make me very happy, to be able to say the Joy Project helped somebody to go on to university education. Another one would be to be able to create holistic wellness spaces for vulnerable groups, so single mothers, the elderly, just so that these people could have a space where they feel completely protected, they could let their guard down. But overall, I really just want it to be a transformative force. I want the Joy Project to be able to leave a lasting positive legacy of change in St. Kitts and Nevis.
So Diani, I want to thank you so much for sitting down with us and doing this interview. Thank you so much for being upfront with us. What is it you would like the people to most remember about you?
I would like them to remember that I am extremely dedicated to St. Kitts and Nevis. I also want to just thank everyone who has so far not just supported me, but supported the Joy Project. I've gotten so many people reaching out to me, just, offering a kind word, just saying keep going, because it's still very much a one-man show. So that really helps to continue fueling and driving me to do as much as I can. I have received so much love and warmth and kindness since moving to St. Kitts and Nevis. It's not easy to move from what you're familiar with, from what you consider to be home, giving up a career, and just coming into the unknown. But it's been one of the best decisions that I've made. St. Kitts and Nevis has been so loving to me, and I hope to be able to just show that love back to the people and the country. And I just want everyone to know how committed I am to giving as much as I can and helping where I can.
Again, thank you for sitting down with us.
Thank you.
Commend you on the Joy Project. You are doing so much to give back to the most vulnerable within our society, and we look forward to hearing more about this project.
Thank you.
What a remarkable interview. You see, an introduction to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. So I feel like I know 25% of the First Lady from that interview. Great job, excellent job by Jamiella McPhail of Freedom FM St. Kitts. And that's it today. Do join us again for a similar presentation of Conversations with Mervin Hanley. Have a good day.